So I took 2 years off of dating and really all forms of intimacy to get my shit together in terms of codependency, people pleasing, some patterns that I was seeing come up for me again and again in all kinds of relationships. Did a lot of work during that time, established a lot of foundations within myself during that time. And recently, earlier this year, I have opened myself up to dating again. And so I've been seeing somebody and it's really been an opportunity to practice some of the things that I was incubating during that time period by myself. And specifically, I want to share with you a little perspective shift, a pattern switch up that I have been working with in this new relationship, which is being very open and honest and transparent and voicing what I am feeling. So an example of this, there was a specific situation when we were hanging out over this last weekend together where I felt a little bothered by something. My feelings were a little bit hurt, and my initial response and reaction was to try and hide that. That is how I showed up in past relationships. I wouldn't voice my truest feelings. When something would come up within me, my inclination was to just stifle it down and pretend that I was fine. And I think that's a really culturally normalized thing to do. But then over time, that would turn into resentment and an expectation for my partner or the person that I was engaging with to somehow know and understand how I was feeling without me having to tell them. And that's an element of how codependency showed up for me, was this emotional caretaking of one another, where I would expect them to know and understand and do the thing to make me feel better without me having to tell them the thing that was going to make me feel better, and vice versa. I was hyper vigilant and looking for how did that person feel, and if something felt off in their energy, rather than being able to explicitly talk about it, it became this cat and mouse game thing of how do I try to walk on eggshells, or how do I try to make the situation better, or how do I try to manage this other person's emotional experience. Codependency happens when we make other people's emotional experiences our responsibility, and when we make our emotional experience their responsibility, rather than voicing and saying hey, I'm feeling this because I need this. And it's gray and nuanced, because I feel even that can get into codependent territory. So I want to give you this example. So I was feeling a little bit rejected. There was a cue for intimacy that I felt I had given to this person that I'm seeing that they hadn't picked up on. And so part of me internalized that as hurtful, as oh, I'm being rejected. I'm being unwanted right now, which the broader part of me knew wasn't the reality, but that was the emotional experience that was coming up for me in that moment. And so rather than reacting from that place, rather than trying to get my romantic partner to give me that kind of validation without explicitly asking for it, we had a conversation about it. And a tool that my therapist has recently given to me to just sort of invite that kind of conversation in is to just say I'm having a thing. I'm having a reaction, and I need to look at this, and I need to sit with the moment. What am I feeling and why? Because sometimes it can take us a minute to figure out what we are feeling and why. And so I said that. I said, I'm having a thing. And so we sat down, and I was I think that I'm feeling a little bit of rejection because I was trying to ask for intimacy, and you didn't pick up on it. And so then they were okay, great. Is it too late? No, it's not too late. Okay, great. And my need was able to be met by simply voicing it and speaking it. And I'm seeing the way that this comes up again and again in this new relationship, and any relationship of intimacy, where we are going to have needs. And if we're not willing to speak those needs, if we're not willing to put a voice to those needs, if we're trying to do subconscious things to get those needs met, we're going to set ourselves up for disappointment. We're going to set ourselves up for hurt. We're going to set our partners up for not knowing what we actually do need. And we're going to set ourselves up for a codependent relationship kind of container. So this is something that I'm an edge that I'm really stretching and practicing right now, is what can it look like to be vulnerable and honest and transparent and voicing the feelings that are arising. What can it look like for me to take responsibility for meeting my needs, even if that means asking somebody to help meet me there. And I think this is so indicative of broader cultural issues that we're seeing in this country right now too, because what if we could say the thing that we were feeling instead of dancing around it and playing all these other games, What if we lived in a country that was emotionally intelligent enough to recognize when an emotion was driving an action, when a subconscious feeling or an unmet need was driving the way that we were behaving and showing up. What if Donald Trump or some of our political leaders could say, like, I'm feeling insecure right now. I need some reassurance right now. What if they could explicitly name that instead of acting in ways that try to get that need met in other less healthy, less productive mannerisms? So I want to share this as just like an example of something that I'm learning and processing and walking through in my own human journey that is helping me on an individual level. It's helping me within a specific romantic relationship level. And then I also feel like this is the medicine that our society needs, for more of us to be able to explicitly identify when we're having a particular feeling, when we're having a particular unmet need come up, and to be able to voice that. So it's a simple example, but I think it's also really important. Can we notice when we're having a thing? And can we give a voice to the thing that we're having in a way that is expressing what we feel directly from the source, rather than trying to subconsciously manipulate and control a situation to get that need met instead?